Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be actually having a look at the Super Weilongs. So when MoYu were releasing so many cubes, they released the original Super Weilong, and loads of people thought it had loads of unnecessary accessories and it just wasn't that good. Well, it was actually quite a good cube, but then the Super Weilong version 2 came out, and that was actually a really good cube and was the best cube until potentially the GAN 16 arrived. And after that, hardly anybody even made videos about it. It was really not that popular. So what we're going to have a look now is if the Super Weilong V2 really was better than the V1, since everybody who tried it said it was better. But we don't know if that's just because the V1 has so many accessories and they didn't like that and they thought the V2 is better because it didn't have that. So how about we start right now with the Super Weilong version 1. So this is the box that the version 1 comes in, and then if we open up right here, we can see what box it comes in because the Super Weilongs actually have a box outside of them. So it comes in this bag kind of thing that you just can hold. So we go over like this, and here is the Super Weilong box. So what we've got is a box that kind of opens slightly similar to the GAN 13. So basically we've got a magnet holding this that'll open like this. So let's go and open that. So right here we've got the Super Weilong version 1. So if we go and take out, this is the cube here, and then if we have a look at this, we can take out this, which is the adjustment tool right here. And then we've got these two, which we'll get on in a bit. And then you've got an adjustment pamphlet and other things that are not really needed. What we're going to do is we're going to see what this is about. So let's go and put this on the cube. So this is just a watch strap. So what we do is we just put it on, just like any ordinary watch. And this is just how it is. So this is what I was talking about when I said weird accessories. This is definitely quite weird. So you can wear your cube on your wrist now, and you can just take it out like this. And there we go. We got a cube. And that's basically how it works. And actually, fun fact, the GAN 16, it also fits in this. So if you have a Super Weilong V1 and a GAN 16, and you want to use the GAN 16 on your wrist for some reason, you can do that. Don't know why you would, but you can. So let's actually have a look at the turning of the Super Weilong V2. So it turns incredibly fast. It's very, very good. However, it has a kind of interesting feel to begin with. If you have a look at this, at the sound of this, it sounds different to a smoother cube, so it's not the smoothest, but it will become smoother later after it has been broken in. But it's actually not that bad of a cube, and probably was the best cube at that time. I would say probably better than the GAN 12, as I'm just trying it right here, that it is better than the GAN 12. I would say that it's very good. So let's put that to one side for a second, and then we can compare it to this cube, the Super Weilong version 2. Now, just before I get into this, I will say that this is not the original packaging of the version 1 Super Weilong. It was actually quite a lot bigger, but they've changed to this, I'm pretty sure, which is a lot better because the original one, it wasn't that convenient, that it just had such large packaging. But this is the Super Weilong version 2. Right here, we've got a similar kind of bag that we can hold, just like this. But inside, we've got the cube. So we can open it. It opens in a very similar way to the Super Weilong version 1, just like this. And right here, we've got an interesting way of packaging it. We've got the box here and the cube here. So we basically didn't put the cube in the box, which is quite interesting. but it doesn't really matter. And actually, original batch Super Weilongs had something kind of like this or something that kind of made it look like that you didn't have the cube in, which definitely is questionable, but we'll look past that for now. So this is the cube here, and this is the box. So this box just opens up like this, and we can put the cube inside and close it like that. So this, it kind of looks similar to the charging dock that the AI version of this is, and AI just basically means a smart cube. But yeah, so this has a different rounding on the pieces than the Super Weilong version 1, and it feels a lot smoother out of the box. Let's just try this out. So it's quite good, actually. It turns very smoothly, and it's quite good. The corner cutting is very good. We'll test the corner cutting on the V1 in a second, but it also, the quite good thing, also the quite interesting thing is that if you have a V1 and a V2, you could put the V2 in the strap like any other. But it actually, as a matter of fact, if we get the V1 here out and we put this in the strap, this wobbles a lot around in the strap, but the V2, it doesn't wobble as much. And really interestingly, the GAN 16, it doesn't wobble around at all in the strap. So it's actually quite funny that the actual cube that was literally made for the strap doesn't fit as well as its successor, or even a cube from a different brand. So that's quite interesting. But how about we actually have a look at how this cube feels? So if we just have a look at this, these look very similar. And we can actually have a look at these adjustable magnets. So the Super Weilong version 1 has orange adjustable magnets, and the Super Weilong version 2 has blue adjustable magnets. I'm pretty sure that's just cosmetic, but it's just a nice little touch to differentiate them if you ever have both and you're confused with them. They also have different rounding on the pieces, as I said before. This has that, and the Super Weilong V2 has slightly different rounding, which definitely can see noticeably in person, but you might not. You might be able to see on camera. I don't know. So now let's actually have a look at how the turning is. So the Super Weilong version 1 is quite fast, and the Super Weilong version 2 is around the same speed. So out of the box, these are actually really similar, but it's quite interesting because we can have a look at the corner cutting. So this is 45 degrees on the V1, so it can do that instantly, no problem. We do line to line, which is going to be quite hard. It can do that, but it actually is doing some auto turning, which we'll go into in a second. And if we do more than line to line, it'll just go into reverse. So that's just how much it is. And then the Super Weilong version 2, if we go to 45 degrees, can do that. And then we do line to line, it can't do it. So actually, it's quite interesting that the version 1, it actually also can't do it. So I actually did that by accident. That's why it's good to do multiple times to check. So I think it was generally the auto turning that helped on this, which is another point we've got to say, is that the auto turning on the version 1 is a lot more than on the version 2. So you see that the version 1 basically helps you the moment you get past 45 degrees, but the version 2 only helps you around up to here, which isn't actually that much. But really, as we've seen from the GAN 16, the GAN 16 is better than the 12, but it has less auto turning. So really, it depends what kind of cube you like, because I know that a lot of people will prefer the GAN 16 to the 12, but which one would they prefer? Well, a lot of people have preferred the V2. So let's actually have a look at the main differences between the two. So if we use the adjustment tool that came through the V1, it also comes with a V2. And we can use this part here, that's right over here, and we can use that to take off the center cap. So we can take this off the V1, and this is the adjustment system that the V1 has. It's very basic, and it's been around since, I think, the GTS 3M, which was quite a while ago, and it's very, very old. However, some people prefer it. Then we've got the Super Weilong version 2, which if we take off this cap, we can see that it is this adjustment system, which just so happens to be a different adjustment system, because this is a new adjustment system that came out with the Super Weilong version 2 and the Weilong V10. Now, this adjustment system is quite cool because we can basically use this adjustment tool. I don't think we can use the V1's adjustment tool because this, I don't know why that is there, but yeah. We can basically use the V2's adjustment system. We can use the V2's adjustment tool. It looks quite similar to this, and if we turn anti-clockwise, it will adjust one thing, and clockwise, it will adjust the other thing, which if we actually have a look inside the version 2's packaging, and we have a look at the accessories box, but we first go and have a look at what this is, we can see this is a CFOP tutorial. And then right here is the adjustment pamphlet. So it basically says to clockwise to adjust the tensions and anti-clockwise to adjust the elasticity. So this basically means that if you turn clockwise, you'll adjust how far the pieces can move. So this is how far the pieces can move. And then if you do it anti-clockwise, it will do how easily the pieces can move within that space. So of course, that's how it works. But another cool thing is that if we open up this, and then we can actually just tip out everything in here, we can see that as well as this, there's a tool that looks very similar to the version 1's, we've actually got a lot of these springs because you can actually use the springs to swap out the MagLev. So you can actually convert the V2 into a spring cube. Now, if we have a look at the V1, so if we just put these back for a second, and then we just put this back, and then we go and have a look at the V1's packaging right here. Then we open up this here. We actually see no springs to swap it out because the V1 didn't have this feature. So this means that the V2 can become a spring cube and be slower if you prefer it. But the V1 doesn't come with that, which actually means that you're going to be stuck with MagLev if you got it. But of course, this cube still is really good, so that may not be a limiting factor for you. Another thing is the price. So on the Cubicle, which is the site that I would recommend, they are actually quite different in price. So in fact, the Super Weilong V2 is $82 on the Cubicle, which is the site that I would recommend that you should go. The Super Weilong V1 original, so that's with the really large packaging, is $90. And then the packaging that I've got right here, which is basically exactly the same as the large packaging, but it's smaller, it doesn't not include anything, is $55. So in fact, the Super Weilong V1 is actually cheaper than the V2, but not originally, because the V1 actually originally came out at $100, which is very expensive. But the V2 came out at $82, and it stayed at that because it's the latest Super Weilong. This means that right now, the V1 is cheaper. But of course, does that mean that you should go for the V1 over the V2? Well, not necessarily. In fact, the V1 actually turns very, very well. It has a lot of corner cutting, and the reverse corner cutting, if we just try this slightly below line to line, you can do that, and at line to line, it can't. The V2, if we do slightly below line to line, and then line to line, it can't do it. So neither cube can do exactly line to line reverse corner cutting. But then, obviously, not many cubes can. And of course, these both have very similar corner cutting, and I'm assuming very similar performance. This means that really which one you should get depends on what you prefer. I would say that the version 1 feels more like an older MoYu cube and feels really, really good. But the V2 feels like a different kind of cube that feels a lot smoother. So if you prefer really smooth cubes, then you should go for the V2. But if you just prefer an older kind of feel that can suit more turning styles, I would say, then the V1 would be best. Only issue is that if we just try a really aggressive turning style on both cubes, so let's try the V1. it can take it. Might not be that good, but it can definitely take it. And then the V2, it can't really take it as well as the V1 because I'm overturning all the time and it's really not that good. But the V1, if we try a lighter turning style, it works really well. And then the V2, it also works really well. So really both these cubes work well, but for different kind of things. They both work on a newer turning style that maybe some newer cubers will be using, like a light turning style, but the V1 will work on aggressive and light, but the V2 won't. But that's not to say that the V1 is for aggressive turners, because it's far from it. It's not really very good for aggressive turners, but it can take it, unlike the V2. So if your turning style is aggressive, but you want it to be light, you want to have the V1 because you can have a good time to begin with, but the V2 is not good for you because it would be generally not that good to begin with. But you might prefer it. And also another factor is, of course, the adjustment system. If you prefer the old adjustment system, go for the V1. If you prefer the newer one, go for the V2. Because generally they're quite different, and really it just depends what you prefer to be exactly which one you like. But then, of course, the general factor that you could go is the V1 is cheaper, which it is. And it also comes with a watch strap, which you might like, because if you can put it in, that's pretty cool. But how about we actually do a solve on them? So I'm going to get out my timer, and I'm going to do a solve on both of these cubes. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the V1 solve and then solve on the V2. So let's go and start off with the solve on the V1. So we're going to scramble this up. So I've scrambled it up, and now I'm going to solve it. Now 17.8, which is all right for me. So now we're going to do a solve on the Super Weilong version 2. Time was actually worse, but generally that was just a mistake. I would say these cubes basically perform very similar to each other, and of course that basically means that you probably should go for the V1, but there's a lot of factors of the V2 that you'll like as well. I do also find the V2 is turning faster than the V1 out of the box. But of course, that really is just out of the box, and generally it will change what it feels like once you lube it. And it also changes the feel when you use it more, because breaking in is definitely something that definitely affects the cube as well. So generally they are quite similar, and you might prefer one over the other. So I'd recommend, if you have the money, to try both and to see which one you prefer. But if you don't want to try both, I would recommend the version 2, as it's the more recent one and it's more proved to be better because it got the 3.08 former world record single but set by Yiheng Wang. But the V1 actually, I don't think, got any world records. The V2 definitely did, and that's basically just how it is. So generally, I'd recommend the V2, but there's some factors that you might prefer of the V1. But generally, I'd recommend trying both if you have the money. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.